Right, next up, we have Kate Morris from James Madison University presenting Temporary Spaces, Leveraging ArchivesSpace Container Management Functionality to Develop New Circulation Workflows. Kate is head of special collections within the Digital Scholarship and Distinctive Collections Department at James Madison University in Harrisburg, Virginia. Kate provides leadership for special collections and works closely with archivists on arrangement and description and collections management initiatives. This presentation will demonstrate how archivists at James Madison University are leveraging ArchivesSpace container management and location functionality to support emerging workflows for the storage and transport of collections among temporary storage and access spaces during a recently begun 3-year renovation and expansion project of JMU's Carrier Library. Kate?
All right. Can everyone hear me? Great. Okay. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you to Jessica for organizing this. I'm really excited to be here. I have wanted to come to the in-person ArchivesSpace forum for a couple of years now, and it has never happened. So I'm looking forward to sharing and meeting some of you, and I hope my goal at the end of this is that lots of you will have suggestions for me as you reflect on the work that we're doing. So I'll start with a little bit of background about James Madison University and what led us in special collections to our current state of occupying temporary spaces and navigating new circulation workflows. JMU is located in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. We have about 22,000 undergraduate and graduate students. Our ArchivesSpace instance is hosted by Lyricists, and we are integrated with Aeon. And can I get a show of hands for who in the room also has an integration with Aeon? Wonderful. I'm so excited to talk to all of you. Okay. So we have more than 400 manuscript and archival collections. So our collection is as a whole is small compared to many institutions. And that makes undertaking projects that call for acting on large amounts of data more manageable. So why are we navigating these temporary spaces? As Jessica said, we are embarking upon a 3-year renovation and expansion project. It started in May, so it feels like yesterday. Special collections folks now occupy workspaces and a makeshift reading room / processing space within a science and math building on campus. And our collections are stored securely within a cage enclosure, which you'll get to see a picture of, within a temporary storage facility also on campus, not too far away, that also houses the library's closed stacks circulating collection, closed stacks for the renovation. So the images on screen show you an artist rendering of what we hope the new Carrier Library will look like, and then the image under construction shows you what it looked like as of July 20th. And that's actually the same view. So if you can imagine that kind of like curved part. So, all of this will ultimately be a wonderful place to be, hopefully. So you can, on the screen here, if you attended the ArchivesSpace virtual member forum in April of this year, some of this background will sound familiar. My colleagues and I presented on Beyond Boxes, Managing Containers and Spaces in ArchivesSpace to share details of the work we undertook to implement container management functionality within ArchivesSpace prior to moving out of the building and occupying temporary spaces. And also thinking of the subsequent collection move back into a new building. So today's presentation will show some of the fruits of that labor, how we've leveraged newly implemented collections management functionality and container management data within ASpace to support efforts to establish new circulation workflows for special collections materials that are now necessary in order to adapt to the logistics and constraints of offsite storage, which we never had offsite storage, so this is a brand new world for us. We could just walk upstairs and get whatever we needed. So as I said, my hope is today that we can connect afterwards and you all can give me some advice. So in an effort to focus this presentation a bit, I'm going to focus on 2 elements. Let me move forward. 2 elements of container management that have emerged as especially useful as we have moved into these interim spaces. And those are container profiles and location data. And keep in mind that this is changing all the time in real time. I'll go back to work and things will be different. Okay. So our first action after the collection move was to create new locations and associate top containers with those new locations. And because we had only selectively created locations in our previous space, because we knew we were moving, mostly for oversize and map case materials, our archivist was able to make pretty short work of this using the bulk operation to update to a single location, and she kind of moved just down the ranges. I should also say that we learned, because we at first tried to just make new locations and associate and delete locations, and you can't do that until you've unassociated your top container, right? So learning things all the time. And I should also say that this work was a priority because the move and subsequent shelf locations and organization of the collections did not end up as expected. And if I would also love to talk to anyone that's been through a move. The measurement, the collection measurement that was completed outsourced was inaccurate. So once we had all of our collections moved into our temporary space, we had 0 room, and they had to, as you can imagine, utilize every possible inch of space. So what that means is that our collection isn't in a logical order on the shelves, which that for us is a new world to be living in, which is why we're embarking on locations, right? So. This is the cage I was talking about. So you're standing outside in the closed stacks of the circulating collection looking in at the enclosure. Also, we call it the cage within our ArchivesSpace instance in the location. Okay. So how are we using that location data? We have the ArchivesSpace Aeon Fulfillment plugin configured for our ArchivesSpace installation, which allows users to make Aeon requests for archival objects from the ArchivesSpace public user interface, importing the archival object data into the Aeon request. On the screen, you can see an example of the shelf copy, part of a shelf copy of an Aeon call slip, which staff used to locate and retrieve containers. You will notice that the location lists much more than just location data. On the left side, I've listed out all those elements that constitute that field, including the barcode, the container profile, location, collection identifier, and title. And this display string is specified in the open URL mapping in Aeon as the instance top container long display string. So I have not been able to figure out how to isolate just the location part of this string, which would be wonderful. I'd really like to be able to import just that piece into a request. In this example, range to column R shelf 4. So if any of you have been able to do that or can suggest anything, I'm all ears. So in terms of supporting the circulation workflow, without this data on the call slip, I would not be able to locate containers in our interim storage space at all, ever, due to the lack of logical organization that I mentioned earlier. Now, in imagining ways that we would use location data to improve collections management, we definitely anticipated that having that location data on the call slip would improve our retrievability, our findability of materials. So this was like an anticipated benefit that we were looking forward to. I did not anticipate the extent to which we would really come to rely on the locations because the move didn't go as planned. So now I'll move to an unexpected benefit derived from us implementing this container management functionality. So in the few months since May, we've been working collaboratively with the library's Access and Delivery Department to create a new circulation workflow for special collections materials that incorporates collection, transport, and delivery between storage and access spaces in light of our new offsite storage reality. The Access and Delivery Department is new to handling and transporting special collections materials. This isn't something they've ever done before. So our process has been deliberate, and we are prioritizing communication as we establish procedures and learn from one another. So one early realization was that the access and delivery team was unfamiliar with the types and sizes of typical archival containers used to house, special collections materials, which was something I took for granted. So, when we first met for the first time, they came with this tiny box, and they were like, "We'll put everything in here." So there was a misperception, I think, about books versus boxes. So we all had learning to do with one another. So understanding how that team plans their pickups and deliveries that they do with the circulating collection led us to create an AON email template with request item information that will be sent to the access and delivery shared email address when requests are ready for transport. So, in AON, we're going through the whole retrieval process. We're routing to a queue called item ready for transport in the hub, which is that location. And then we're sending an email from that request to the team, letting them know that it's ready for them. So let me see here. Yeah, so on the screen you can see the workflow as it kind of exists right now. This is also in process. This is a draft that our public services coordinator shared with me, but told me it was a draft. So, so this kind of just goes through the process and also shows you what steps the access and delivery team will also be acting in AON to check the item out. Okay, so here's an example of the notification populated without, this is not the notification, this is the template, sorry. I'm getting mixed up here. So as you can see, these are that request location, that's gonna call back to that long display string. So that information is not really relevant to the access and delivery team. That kind of clouds the process. So what we're doing is deleting manually the parts of that string that we don't want. So there's the example populated with real actual request data. And that's the part that we're deleting. So everything after the container profile, so that what they see in the email reflects about the container, so that they can think, oh yeah, that's a flat box, that's huge, or that's something that I'm going to have to make space for. So that was a key piece of us figuring out how to communicate with each other, and what I was so excited to be able to do with importing this in from into the AON email. And that's just, we've deleted the end. And so what you can see is a simplified message here presented to our colleagues who receive these notifications. And this is not tested yet. So this is like fresh off the press. We have a planned training session where we're gonna go over this. So we're developing the workflow and along with handling and transport guidelines, but I expect that this will be a supportive tool in our process. So that's just a brief overview of those two elements of collections management. So what is next? We need to test the workflow, as I just said, see what works, what needs adjusting. And then what's highest on my radar to investigate is to install the AON ArchivesSpace client add-on to integrate the ArchivesSpace staff interface into the AON client request form. So all of the data that you saw on the screen and within those emails originated from requests made from the public user interface. So what that means is you aren't able to bring in any data for any containers that aren't published. So one of the outcomes of the project we did in advance of the renovation was to create instances for all of our accessions, our unprocessed materials, and then barcode, create top containers, barcode, all of that. So now we have the ability to request those containers and move them through this workflow, and it is super helpful, but I have to do it manually right now because we don't have that client add-on. So if any of you have that, I'd love to talk about it. I have attempted to get it to work unsuccessfully, so maybe there's some tricks that I'm not, that I don't know about. But anyway, so that's it, and that's just a brief overview, and again, I look forward to talking to you all later.